Okay, so are you ready to unpack this one? Because today we are diving deep into, well, Andrew Callaghan.
Oh, yeah.
Is he a visionary journalist?
Hmm.
Is he kind of like a charismatic cult leader?
Yeah.
Or is he just a straight-up grifter?
Right.
We have got like a ton of sources to go through, articles, interviews,
Mhm.
even just like his Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
And we're going to sift through all of it to see if we can answer this question, grifter or gifted.
What's really interesting about Callaghan to me is how quickly his career took off.
Yeah.
He goes from like interviewing drunk people on Bourbon Street for quarter confessions to covering political rallies and fringe groups with all gas, no brakes.
Right.
And then like, bam, he's got an HBO documentary, This Place Rules.
It's wild.
Yeah, that's a crazy trajectory. And he'd do it all with this like unconventional gonzo style of journalism.
Yeah, you're right. And that gonzo stuff. I mean, think Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Totally.
It's a huge part of his appeal.
Yeah.
It's so immersive.
It's subjective. It's sometimes even a little altered, but is that responsible journalism?
Right.
Or is it just all a performance?
I think that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gonzo journalism can give you incredibly raw and like unfiltered perspectives, but it often comes at the cost of objectivity.
Right.
And when you're dealing with people on the fringes of society, right?
Yeah.
Vulnerable individuals who might not fully grasp the implications of being featured in, let's be honest, often humorous and sometimes unflattering content,
Yeah.
it raises ethical questions.
Totally. And that's kind of what makes Callaghan such a fascinating case study for this show.
I think so.
There's this anecdote from a Michigan Daily article where he's filming this 4th of July party.
Okay.
During the height of the pandemic, hundreds of people, no masks.
Oh, wow.
Except for Callaghan, he's the only one masked up.
That image of him just like standing there masked in the sea of unmasked faces
Yeah.
perfectly encapsulates that outsider persona that's so central to his appeal.
He's this like awkward, almost alien figure observing this chaotic human behavior.
So true.
And it makes you wonder, does that persona help him gain the trust of his subjects?
Right.
Or does it create a power dynamic that could be easily manipulated?
That is such a good point. And speaking of power dynamics, things get even more kind of murky, I guess, when you look at Callaghan's split from Doing Things Media.
Okay.
The production company behind All Gas, No Brakes.
Right.
According to the Spartan Shield, they allegedly tried to censor his content, specifically his coverage of political protests.
Censorship is always a red flag, you know?
Yeah.
But especially in the media landscape. It suggests that there are ulterior motives at play.
Right.
Whether it's protecting financial interests or bowing to political pressure.
Totally.
And for a journalist who's built his brand on unfiltered truth, that's a major contradiction.
100%. And his Wikipedia page says that his deal with Doing Things Media was a measly $45,000 a year.
Wow.
And an RV. Then when he left, they kept the rights to all of the All Gas, No Brakes material.
That right there exposes like the harsh reality of independent journalism.
Totally.
Even when you achieve a level of popularity, maintaining creative control, especially against larger media entities, can be incredibly difficult. You have to ask yourself, are you really in control of your narrative, or are you just a pawn in someone else's game?
It's a tough position to be in for sure. But all of that drama really pales in comparison to the bombshell that really rocked Callaghan's world. The sexual misconduct allegations.
Right.
Multiple women have come forward.
Yeah.
And their accounts are honestly deeply disturbing.
What's crucial to understand here is the pattern that emerges from these accusations.
Wow.
It's not just one isolated incident, but a series of alleged behaviors.
Okay.
Ranging from pressuring women for sex to, in some cases, claims of assault.
Yeah, the initial allegations came from two women who shared their stories on TikTok. Caroline Elise, who went by at Cornbread Ass Roll, and Dana, who's known as at Moldy Freckle. Caroline described feeling completely frozen in fear when Callaghan allegedly pressured her into sexual activity.
Wow.
Dana claimed he physically restrained her and repeatedly tried to force her hand down his pants.
These are incredibly serious accusations that paint a very troubling picture. They suggest a pattern of predatory behavior.
Right.
Someone who might have been using his position of power and influence to coerce and manipulate women.
And those initial accounts were really just the tip of the iceberg articles in BuzzFeed News Distractify. And the stranger brought even more allegations to light.
Oh, wow.
Two women referred to as Mary and Emma in this comer. The stranger article even alleged that they were raped by Callaghan.
Again, it's essential to remember that these are allegations.
Of course.
And Callaghan, through his lawyer, has denied them and stated his intention to clear his name.
Right.
However, the volume and consistency of these accounts raise serious questions about his conduct.
Yeah, in response to the allegations, Callaghan released an apology video where he admitted to what he called a pattern of sex pest behavior and announced that he was entering therapy. He also said that he didn't have a fluid understanding of consent and what enthusiastic two-way consent looked like.
Okay.
He talked about joining a 12-step program for Alcoholics Anonymous because he believes his relationship with alcohol played a role in his bad decisions.
The apology sparked a wide range of reactions.
I bet.
Some people saw it as a genuine expression of remorse and a willingness to take responsibility, while others felt it fell short of addressing the gravity of the accusations.
And to add another layer to this already complex situation, Ethan Klein mentioned on the H3 podcast that Callaghan had been in a psychiatric ward.
That raises a really difficult question.
Yeah.
How do we separate an individual's personal struggles from their professional accountability?
Yeah.
It requires a very nuanced approach.
For sure.
Recognizing that mental health challenges don't excuse harmful actions, but understanding that they can be a contributing factor.
It's a tough balance to strike. And then you have these whispers of potential blackmail claims. KUOW published an article detailing a text message where Caroline Elise mentioned therapy bills and suggested that Callaghan could help by sending money via Venmo.
That's a twist that introduces a whole new layer of complexity.
Yeah.
It muddies the waters, making it even harder to discern the motivations behind the accusations.
This whole situation is such a tangled mess, and it leaves us with a question that goes far beyond Andrew Callaghan.
Okay.
In the age of online personalities and influencer culture, how do we hold these figures accountable?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
We need to have honest conversations about power dynamics, consent, and the immense responsibility that comes with having a platform.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, by unpacking these complex situations, we can start to create a media landscape that is safer and more equitable for everybody.
I hope so.
Me too.
It's unsettling, because Callaghan cultivated this image of himself as this super empathetic, woke journalist, someone who was giving a voice to the voiceless.
Absolutely. He positioned himself as a champion of the underdog, an outsider looking in.
Right.
That's why these allegations were so jarring. They clash so strongly with the persona he projected to the world.
It makes you question, everything you thought you knew about him.
Yeah.
And it also raises concerns about how easily we can be misled by these carefully constructed online personas.
It's a stark reminder that we should always be critical consumers of media regardless of the source.
Right.
We can't just take things at face value. It's important to do your research, look for corroborating evidence, and be wary of anyone who presents themselves as a flawless hero.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, the reality is far more complicated.
Okay, so putting the controversy aside for a moment, there's also the question of Callaghan's work itself.
Right.
Is it valuable? Is it exploitative? Is it even journalism?
That's where things get really nuanced. Callaghan's supporters argue that he's providing a valuable service by exposing us to the fringes of American culture, by giving a platform to voices that are often ignored or marginalized.
And there's definitely some truth to that.
Yeah.
His videos can be incredibly insightful, even educational.
Right.
He's captured these fascinating snapshots of American life that you wouldn't see anywhere else.
But the criticism, and it's a valid one, is that he achieves this by often dehumanizing his subjects.
Oh?
He uses humor to punch down at people who are already struggling.
Yeah, in some of his videos, you get the sense that he's exploiting his subjects for comedic effect. That he's not treating them with the respect and dignity they deserve.
And that's where the line between entertainment and exploitation gets blurred.
Right.
It's one thing to interview people with unconventional beliefs or lifestyles, but it's another thing entirely to do so in a way that mocks or ridicules them.
Totally. And that's a criticism that's often leveled at gonzo journalism in general.
Yeah.
It can easily veer into sensationalism and mockery, especially when the focus is on the bizarre or the outrageous.
Right. And when you factor in the power dynamics, the fact that Callaghan often has a much larger platform than his subjects, it raises ethical questions about whether he's exploiting their vulnerability for his own gain.
And those ethical questions become even more pressing in light of the sexual misconduct allegations.
No, sure.
It becomes almost impossible to separate the art from the artist.
You're absolutely right. The allegations cast a long shadow over his entire body of work.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch his videos now without questioning his motives, without wondering if he was using his platform to manipulate and exploit women.
It's truly a tragic situation. Regardless of whether he's found guilty or innocent of the allegations, the damage has been done.
Right.
His reputation is tarnished, and his work is now viewed through a lens of suspicion.
It's a cautionary tale about the importance of ethical behavior and the responsibility that comes with power and influence. And it's a reminder that the internet, for all its wonders, can also be a breeding ground for exploitation and abuse.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
How do we reconcile the undeniable impact of Callaghan's work with the serious allegations against him?
That's the challenge we're all grappling with. Can we appreciate the humor and insight of his videos while acknowledging the harm he may have caused?
Can we hold space for both the good and the bad?
Yeah.
For the inherent complexities of human nature?
Exactly. It's about recognizing that even those we admire can be capable of terrible things.
And it's about demanding accountability, supporting survivors, and making sure their voices are heard.
Absolutely. We can't just sweep these allegations under the rug. We need to have open and honest conversations about consent power and the responsibilities that come with having a platform.
It feels like we're at this crossroads where the lines between hero and villain are becoming increasingly blurred.
Yeah.
We keep seeing these figures we once admired fall from grace, accused of doing terrible things.
It's a difficult time to navigate.
Right.
We're being forced to confront the dark side of human nature and accept that good and bad can exist within the same person. And it's making us rethink how we assign value and meaning to the work these individuals create.
Right. It's the age-old question. Can you still enjoy the art while condemning the artist?
Yeah.
Can you truly separate the creation from the creator?
That's a question each individual has to answer for themselves. There's no easy answer, no right or wrong response. But I do think it's essential to engage in these conversations, to acknowledge the nuances and complexities.
I agree, and it's also crucial to center the experiences of the survivors.
Right.
Their voices need to be heard. Their stories need to be believed.
100%. We need to create a culture where survivors feel safe coming forward,
Yeah.
where they know they'll be supported and believed.
Right.
And we need to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions, regardless of their status or platform.
This whole situation with Callaghan has really ignited a debate about the nature of consent, especially in the age of social media and influencer culture.
You're right. We're seeing a growing awareness of the power imbalances that can exist in online spaces and how those imbalances can be exploited.
Totally.
It's prompting us to have important conversations about boundaries, respect, and the importance of enthusiastic consent.
It also feels like a wake-up call about the dangers of parasocial relationships.
For sure.
And the need to maintain a healthy distance between ourselves and the online personalities we follow.
That's a critical point. We need to remember that these online figures are not our friends.
Yeah.
No matter how relatable or authentic they may seem, what we see is a curated version of themselves.
Right.
A carefully constructed persona crafted for entertainment.
It's easy to get swept up in the hype and buy into the narrative you're selling.
Totally.
But it's important to remember that behind those perfectly filtered images and witty captions are real people with flaws and complexities.
And those flaws and complexities can manifest in harmful ways. That's why it's so crucial to be critical consumers of media, to question the narratives we're presented with, and to always prioritize the safety and well-being of everyone involved.
Yeah, I think we've built up these online personalities to have so much power and influence.
Right.
But we haven't really figured out how to hold them accountable when they abuse that power.
You're totally right. We're still grappling with how to navigate this new world of online fame and influencer culture. It's uncharted territory, and we're figuring things out as we go along, often with messy and painful consequences.
So if you circle back to Andrew Callaghan, what's the verdict? Is he a visionary journalist exposing the underbelly of America? Or is he just a talented manipulator who got caught?
It's tempting to try to put people into neat little boxes to label them as good or bad, hero or villain. But the reality is it's rarely that simple human beings are complex, contradictory creatures. We're all capable of great things and terrible things. It's frustrating because you watch his videos and there's this undeniable charisma, this ability to connect with people from all walks of life.
Oh, yeah.
But then you hear these accusations and it makes you question everything.
It's a perfect example of how someone can present a certain image to the world while hiding a darker side. And it's a reminder that we can never truly know what's going on behind closed doors, no matter how well we think we know someone.
I guess that's the ultimate takeaway here. Don't blindly trust anyone, especially those who have built their careers on carefully curated online personas.
Right. It's about approaching everything with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
Being aware of the potential for manipulation and always centering the voices of those who may have been harmed. We need to continue to have these difficult conversations, to challenge power imbalances and to advocate for a media landscape that is safer, more equitable, and holds everyone accountable for their actions. Because in the end, that's the only way we can create a world where everyone feels seen, heard, and respected. And that's it for our deep dive on Andrew Callaghan. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.